When we think of adult coloring books, most of us just see them as a nice way to relax, a simple hobby. And hey, that's totally true. But what if I told you they could be so much more? In this explainer, we're going to dive into how coloring, when you do it with a little intention, can become a seriously powerful tool for personal growth.
I know, it sounds a little over the top, right? Can a coloring book actually change your life? It feels like a huge stretch. But stick with me here, because by the end of this, you might just see how this simple, everyday activity can unlock some pretty profound shifts inside you.
So, here's the core idea. We're not just talking about killing time here. When you pair the physical act of coloring with a little bit of psychological reflection, that page completely transforms. It becomes this structured, safe space for you to have some genuine personal insights.
All right, so let's get into it. To really understand the power of this, we first need to take a step back and look at the world we're all living in. Why does something so simple like coloring matter so much for adults, especially right now?
Just think about our modern mind for a second. It's constantly analyzing, always chasing a goal, totally fragmented, and just overstimulated. That's kind of our default setting these days. But coloring? It offers a totally different space. A quiet space that's slow, rhythmic, non-demanding, and focused. It's a simple but incredibly powerful antidote to all that daily chaos.
And that leads us right to the foundational benefits. This isn't just a nice idea, it has a real physical effect on how we feel inside. Let's take a look at how it actually soothes our nerves and calms our minds. One of the first things that happens is something called emotional regulation. You know how we often try to think our way out of stress, like telling ourselves to just calm down? Well, emotions are physical, not just thoughts. Coloring works on that sensory level. The repetitive motion of your hand, the focus of your eyes, it literally helps to organize a scattered, chaotic mind from the outside in.
And it's not just about emotions. It's also about our focus. I mean, in a world of endless notifications, our attention is pulled in a million different directions. Coloring is like attentional recovery. It's a gentle, pleasant way to train your mind to stay with one thing, rebuilding that muscle of sustained focus that's so crucial for, well, pretty much everything.
As adults, we often think creativity has to be about performance. It has to be brilliant or original or perfect. And that pressure can be absolutely paralyzing. Coloring just gets rid of all of that. The lines are there for you, but the expression, the color, that's all you. It gives you this safe space to play again, free from that nagging inner critic.
Okay, so we've got the calming benefits. That's the foundation. But now, we're ready to go deeper. This is where coloring becomes something truly transformative. It's about using the image on the page as a mirror and turning your coloring time into a real dialogue with yourself.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? The goal is no longer just to finish the page, to fill in all the blanks. The goal is to use that page, the colors, the shapes, the symbols, as a launchpad for a conversation with your own inner world.
And that dialogue? It starts with really simple questions. Before you even pick up a crayon, just pause and ask yourself, out of a whole book of pictures, why this one? What is it about this animal, or this pattern, or this landscape that's calling to me right now? Then, as you start to color, just notice your instincts. Are you reaching for bright, fiery reds and oranges, or are you drawn to cool, calming blues and greens? That little palette you're choosing is a form of nonverbal communication. It might be reflecting the mood you're in, or maybe, just maybe, the mood you're longing for.
And finally, really look at the drawing itself. Is there a part of it that feels super easy and comfortable, like coming home? And is there another part that feels tricky, maybe a part you're even avoiding? These little points of connection and resistance are super valuable clues about what's going on inside you.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do we actually do it? That brings us to our next section, a super practical guide on how to color with real intention.
It's actually a pretty simple 5-step process. First, choose your image slowly and really trust that little emotional pull. Second, don't rush. Let the process unfold at its own pace. Third, as you're coloring, just notice your choices without any judgment. Fourth, and this one is so important, pause and reflect when you're done. And finally, step 5, actively ask yourself, how does this whole experience connect back to my life right now?
And that leads to a really crucial idea. While the act of coloring is amazing for calming your nerves in the moment, the deep work, the work of turning those feelings into lasting insight, that often begins in the quiet moments after you've put the pencils down.
So this reflection process can have about 4 stages. First, an emotional check-in. Just ask, how do I feel right now? Second, an aesthetic one, Which parts of the page feel really satisfying and which ones feel a little off? Third, the symbolic stage. What could this image represent? A journey? A challenge? A hidden strength? And finally, integration. This is the big one. What small, real-world action does this insight inspire me to take? That last step is what turns a nice feeling into actual personal development.
A fantastic way to deepen all of this is with a journal. You don't have to write a novel, just a few lines about how your mood shifted or what you think a symbol might mean. And asking yourself this really powerful question, what inner story am I living right now? Wow, that can unlock so much.
And what this all comes down to is that because there's no right or wrong way to color, the page becomes this incredibly safe space. It's a place where you can practice just being with yourself without all the judgment. It's like a rehearsal space for a kinder, more compassionate inner voice, one that can then extend into the rest of your life.
And this quote just wraps it all up so perfectly. This practice isn't about distraction or decoration. It's about giving us a chance to discover what's inside of us. A hope, a fear, a strength that's been quietly waiting to be seen and understood more clearly.
So I'll leave you with that. The next time you see a coloring book, don't just see it as a simple hobby. See it as an invitation. And ask yourself this one simple question. What do you want to see more clearly within yourself?